Hello everybody, welcome to the first official episode of my podcast. For today we're going to be talking about gender exclusive stereotypes in terms of hairstyles and what is expected of each gender in terms of appearance. I personally find it very interesting, this topic, and I've been really doing a little bit of research about the whole thing because I recently got my hair cut very short. And actually, when I first got with my current partner, he wore his hair very long. So I want to discuss the differences in which people treated myself and to some extent my partner also when we had hairstyles that were not naturally associated with our gender. Going back to tradition, I know I briefly touched upon this when I did the introductory podcast, which will be linked in the description box for you guys. But yeah, going back to tradition, women typically were expected to wear their hair long, whereas men, of course, stereotypically had to have short hair. However, our world is totally changing, and I think we are beginning to move on from stereotypes, and I think we as a society are beginning to attempt to move forward and aim to be a little bit more open-minded and not just, relying on general stereotypes in order to judge someone. I did actually find very interesting articles online about this topic, particularly a one from The Independent, which again I will link this article and all of the articles that I bring up in this podcast in the description box down below, so you guys can go and check them out. But particularly this one from The Independent spoke about a 3-year-old girl who actually wanted to get her hair cut really short, but it was refused by 2 different hairdressers in 2 different salons. And basically these hairdressers refused to cut the girl's hair because they felt that she would regret cutting off her beautiful hair. This particular part of the story was very interesting because the young girl's mum actually took her to a totally different salon after the hairstyle was refused the first time, and the hairdresser at the second salon actually said to this young girl's mother that, and I quote, "You can't do that to her," end quote. And that she would only do the hairstyle if she got permission from her boss to do so. And for someone to say that, it's just incredibly rude. To imply that the mother is actually forcing her daughter to have her hair cut off short as if it is some kind of punishment for the poor child. And at the end of the article actually is a quote from the mother which says, I just don't understand why we can't let kids be themselves. And that is definitely, I 100% agree with that quote. Why can't girls have their hair cut short and men grow their hair out? And I think it goes back to, it's this constant battle between traditions and new beginnings in modern day society. When I first wanted to get my hair cut really short, I was actually judged by a lot of people for it, and I was questioned a lot for it as well. And my partner, who of course has long hair, was also judged and made fun of because of his hair. And I think it's quite sad that we as a society are actually judging people on so many different levels based purely on their appearance and, of course, in this case, their hairstyle. I actually love my short hair and I don't feel any less of a woman because I have shorter hair. I actually love short hair because it's just so much easier to manage on a day-to-day basis, whereas long hair, I'm always trying to straighten it, and long hair on me, it never behaves because my hair is really thick. So it's just, short hair is a lot easier to deal with in general. And I, of course, don't feel any less of a woman because I have shorter hair. And nor did my partner feel less of a man because he had longer hair. And actually another article describes a woman that, they get their hair cut short, and it goes into a little bit of a discussion about how they get treated. And this article in particular is actually a one by Culture Trip, and it says about, how people often assume things about one's personality because of their hairstyle. Like, for example, their sexuality. And this has happened to me loads when I've had shorter hair, not just now, but in the past. I've been called a lesbian so many times when I have shorter hair, and my partner was always called gay because he had longer hair. And I also actually, interestingly, read an article about how professional hairstyles, and it spoke about how some employers and companies see it as unprofessional if someone does not have a stereotypical gender hairstyle. And I've actually had a similar thing happen to me where I've, gone for an interview, the employer has looked at me and basically told me that I'd have to change my whole entire look in order to get the job. And do you know what? No job is ever worth sacrificing my personality and completely changing, overhauling my appearance. I understand, having a uniform, having people look smart in that respect. You know what? I actually really quite like wearing a uniform. I think it looks smart, it makes everyone look the same, and it represents a company very, very well. But to pick at someone and not hire them, regardless of how perfect they are for that specific job role, just because of a haircut, is incredibly ridiculous. And do you know what? I came across another really interesting piece online from the Telegraph that was actually about men with long hair. And it goes into depth about how longer hair could actually lead people to believe that this particular person is a hippie and is somewhat rebellious, and how long hair is seen almost as if, that person is a troublemaker. For example, rockers often do wear their hair long. And so again, it's that stereotype of like, oh my gosh, you're not sticking to these stereotypes and you're not sticking to what society is expecting of you in terms of your gender. And the thing is, it could also mean, and this is referring to not just men, but to all gender hairstyle stereotypes, is that, the person is going through some kind of mental midlife crisis or is mentally unwell. And that is so wrong to judge someone. Like, it is so ridiculous to think that just because I have my hair cut short or someone has their hair longer, it means that they're going through some kind of emotional crisis in their lives. And it's just absolutely ridiculous to think that. I don't understand how we can look at someone's hair and essentially think that we know their whole life and who they are and what they're all about. And hairstyles can lead to assumptions about sexuality, about gender, and all sorts. But right now, I want to ask for your opinion on this. I personally could talk forever on this. And this podcast would easily be like an hour long of me just ranting about how people get judged for hairstyles and how we should get rid of these exclusive stereotypes, that are purely set out to certain genders. So yeah, I'm asking for your opinion. What do you personally think of gender exclusive hairstyles? And of course, stereotyping hairstyles. What do you guys think about all of this? Let me know in the comments section down below. Thank you so much for listening to my first ever official podcast. I'm so excited to do the next one for you guys. I believe that I may do how men have to be masculine and why they have to be masculine based on, the manly stereotype. Or I could possibly look more into men, masculinity and makeup. So those are the two subjects that I'm thinking of discussing next. Let me know your thoughts about gender exclusive hairstyles in the description box down below. If you're new here, click on that subscribe button, and if you like this podcast, give it a thumbs up. And of course, I hope to see you guys in my next video.